Hello, everyone. Adam here, host of the Baseball World Today podcast. We're going to get right into it, talking about some of the news we do have, and then we'll get into the Hall of Fame ballot, what some of my thoughts are. First of all, we're going to start with Corey Kluber and his bullpen. We haven't really heard anything on it, but from what I know, it seems like a lot of teams were interested and did attend. I believe more news on what teams are seriously interested will come out tomorrow. Meanwhile, in interest, Red Sox seem to be leading the league in serious interest as they show serious interest in Jake Odorizzi. Makes sense for the Red Sox as he is a very dependable guy with a high floor compared to a guy like Kluber who is more of a high ceiling but could be possibly injured again. So they're kind of two different sides of the spectrum here. Kluber is a high ceiling, Odorizzi's a low floor. So it's really all about what your team kind of needs. If they need like an ace, you might be if it's all or nothing, you would be interested in Kluber. But if you just need some innings, Odorizzi is a great guy as well. Next, we'll talk about Robbie Grossman was signed, which is very interesting to me. Obviously, it was signed by the Tigers, who are just not trying to be good. Meanwhile, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, Kyle Schwarber, Nomar Mazara, along with many others, are still out there and not expecting a lot of money. So this is kind of a head scratcher to me. The fact that we have so many good players out there for outfielders and Robbie Grossman got a deal before many of them is kind of shocking and kind of crazy to think about. So these are all incredible players that are still out there, and man, I just hope some of them get signed soon. MLB free agency has been ridiculously slow, so man, some of these guys need to find homes and soon. They all deserve it. Next, we're going to talk about another actual move. Blake Treinen signed from the Dodgers on a 2-year deal. So, Blake had a solid year last year, I believe a 3.8 ERA, but they're hoping they can somehow find the 2018 Blake Treinen, who had a .78 ERA and 100 Ks in 80 innings. If they ever get this man, it's just over for the rest of the league, I think. That he'll be unstoppable. The Dodgers would be unstoppable. So let's hope Treinen can just remain pretty good and not the god that he was in 18. But the Dodgers, meanwhile, are also interested in Brad Hand, along with the White Sox and previously reported Mets. Makes sense. Hand is another one of the guys who got DFA'd despite being pretty good and only being set to be paid $9 million this upcoming season. Shocked no one's claiming for that. Honestly, shocked no one's even signed him yet. But man, getting this man on a $7 million a year for $7 million a year deal would just be incredible for any team that can do that. If the Dodgers get a Hand in addition to the bullpen they already have, with the stars they already have, again, just watch out. They're just so far ahead right now and couldn't move even further ahead. Next, the last bit of news we have is the Angels seem to be interested in Wilson Contreras. So, Cubs are obviously tearing it down. A fact I saw the other day, the Cubs' best 3 hitters, Bryant, Rizzo, and Hayward, combined for 6 homers in Wrigley Field last year. Meanwhile, Jose Abreu had that many in a series. Shows just how incapable their offense last year is. Shows why they're ripping it down. They've already moved Darvish. Contreras could be next. I have repeatedly thought the Phillies and Blue Jays made sense, but this also certainly does make sense. Angels would be getting a buy low candidate who has years of control, who would fit perfectly in the lineup at the catcher position. Next, we are going to talk about the Hall of Fame ballot. So, there's a lot to unpack here, so we'll just take it player by player, see what my thoughts are on it. So we'll lead it off with Curt Schilling. To me, Curt Schilling is a definite Hall of Famer. The problem is what he says outside of baseball, which I'm not going to get into, but if we're looking at Curt Schilling from just the numbers, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. So I believe he'll either get in this year or next year because it'll be his 10th year on the ballot. So look for him to get in with it either this year or next year. Looking at the numbers, I wish we didn't have to look outside them, but unfortunately, we kind of do. But in just the baseball terms, this man's a Hall of Famer. No doubt in my mind about that. helped one of the best postseason pitchers of all time. Not much more really to say about it. That's just what it is. We all know him for the infamous bloody sock game. One of the better pitchers of all time, arguably the best postseason pitcher ever. So that's all I really have to say about him. For lack of a Hall of Famer for me, but I understand why not for some people. We're going to lump these next four together. We're going to be talking about the infamous PED users, or suspected of, I'll say. Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, Manny Ramirez, and Sammy Sosa. Now, if we look at these people just from the numbers, they are all Hall of Famers. It's just the truth. We all know it, especially Bonds and Clemens, but definitely for Manny and Sosa as well. It's just what it is. It's very difficult that we have to look at them outside the numbers. I'm not going to even bother getting into the numbers. They're just so ridiculous. It's not really worth the time on this, honestly, to go into them, because we all know how ridiculous they all are. They're all Hall of Famers if you just look at the numbers. So the problem is, outside of baseball, they have other problems that many people are upset about. Mainly PEDs. So I used to be... It's really just what your opinion is on PEDs, whether you vote for them or not. So I used to be very adamant against PEDs, but I think it's nearly about the time where that's going to change, and people are just going to start voting for these guys despite the PEDs. So if we know most players have had something up one way or another, so I believe Clemens and Bonds will get it next year, because it will be the 10th year on the ballot. We really could have 5 players voted in next year, with Ortiz and A-Rod also being on the ballot. So I kind of believe we'll have those 5 get in: Schilling, Clemens, Bonds, A-Rod, and Ortiz. I honestly believe we'll have no one get in this next year. It's just how the projections are looking on Baseball Reference. Kind of crazy to think about. We could really easily go from 0 to 5. So, but just to state this home, really, if you vote for one, I think you have to vote for all of them. That means Rogers, Bonds, Manny, and Sosa. That's just how I feel on it. Almost seems no chance Sosa will get in because he's at 14% in year 9, but that's just how I look at it. So if you see it a different way, that's understandable, but anyway, let's just get on to Omar Vizquel. So for me, obviously Omar was an incredible defender. That's why we all know him. He had 2,877 hits. So if you see that, you might really be tempted to vote for him. But, man, just a 45 WAR. Typically, the cutoff is around 60. The only reason he has the high number of hits is he hit for average, certainly, but he played from 20 to 45. So, which shows why, and Tip played all the time, not all the time, but played a lot still. Almost never, not a lot of injuries, it seems like, so he was able to accumulate some of those counting numbers, but like the numbers like OPS and on base, and slugging especially, just so poor. A career OPS of 688 for Omar, career high of 833 for him. Also, only on the MVP ballot once ever, and it was as the 16th place MVP together. So for me, he was a very good player, but he was never really even seen as a superstar in his day. It's tough. I don't know really how you can vote for him for the Hall of Fame. So that's all I have to say about that, quite frankly. I would not vote for him. Next, we're going to get into Scott Rowland. And an infamous member of the Hall of Very Good, I believe. Now, I believe Scott will end up getting in. He's only on his 4th year on the ballot and has 35% right now. I think he'll get in later on because he had some great numbers. He really did. He had a great career. There's no way to say around it. From, I believe it was 97 to 06, he put up some incredible numbers. A career 855 OPS. The problem is his highest, only 1,000, only did that once. Otherwise, his second highest was only 923 OPS. So, while this is like a very evident Hall of Very Good for me. Also, though, you gotta look at the defense, put up some really good put up some gold gloves, as we can see. Again, though, no real accolades other than Roy. So he had MVP 4th place, otherwise never came past 14. It was only on the ballot, actually, 4 times. So I feel like he'll get in just because that's how the trends look, but I'm not sure he's borderline worthy of a vote. He could go either way for anyone. It seems like he probably will get in, but I'm not sure I would spend a vote on him, quite frankly. But another thing to point out for your 70 WAR, so he's pretty solidly above, the 60, so I certainly understand voting for him. Also a member of the 06 World Series team, so I could definitely see any argument for him getting in, getting out. It's very opinion-based here. You could go either way. We'll talk about Billy Wagner next. All I have to say about Billy, let's normalize relievers in the Hall of Fame. Because, man, this guy is one of the best relievers ever. Probably top 3. Career 2.3 ERA. I mean, come on. His peak was his entire career. And I mean that quite literally. He only had one bad year. And it was in 2000. We had about a 6 ERA. But otherwise, never even above 2.85. Absolutely incredible. He's one of the top 3 relievers for me all time. He's 100% getting my vote is what I'll say. That's all I have to say about that. Nothing really else for me to say, I think. He's just a lock for me. Next, we're going to talk about Gary Sheffield. For me, he kind of lumps in with Scott Rowland, I believe, where he had some really good years. Some of his very good years were definitely better than Rowland's. He led the league in OPS with a 1,090 in 96. He came close quite a few times with MVP, but was unfortunately never really able to bring one home, including a 2nd place finish and 2 3rd place finishes. Man, if he were to bring one home, that would certainly really help his case. One of the tough things I think really hurts his hurts his chances is 2 of his prime years of 25 and 26, which were right before his incredible 96 season, was years where he only played 87 to 63 games. And man, if he was healthy for those years and were able to really put up some numbers as well, he'd probably be in for me. It's kind of picking a bit for this, but that's just how it is for the Hall of Fame. I'm a believer where only the elite should get in. I don't want it to be the Hall of Very Good. I know there's a lot of debate on that, but for me, I think Gary Sheffield is right outside of it. But he has certain potential to get in. He's right at the 60 WAR. Right now, in his 7th year, he's at 31%. It's going to be near a pretty difficult climb to get there, because someone who has the same percentage as him right now is Todd Helton, and he's only on his 3rd year. So it shows how tough that could be. We'll talk about Todd Helton right now. Todd Helton reminds me a lot of Larry Walker, in the form that they were both basically punished, it seemed, for playing at Coors. Despite their incredible numbers, for example, Helton, with one of the most ridiculous seasons ever in 2000, led the league in hits, doubles, RBIs, batting average, OPS, on-base percentage, slugging, where he had 216 hits, 59 doubles, 147 ribs, 372 batting average, 463 on base, 700 slugging, 1,162 OPS. Absolutely incredible. Only problem is finished 5th in MVP voting. And that was the closest he ever got in MVP voting. He doesn't have the Hall of Fame accolades. And the problem is, playing in Coors, you get downgraded almost from what your stats are. They're looked at as lower. So for me, he would borderline have my vote, I think. This is why I'm kind of almost glad I don't have a vote, because, man, I'm kind of in between a couple guys. But I think he'd probably have my vote. I think he will probably get in one of his last years, but it'll be certainly an uphill climb. Some of these seasons are just so incredible, but the Coors effect and obviously not putting up any insane accolades. Shockingly, only a 5-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover, 4-time Silver Slugger, despite some monster seasons. What does help him is 62 career WAR, right above that normal cutoff. So I do believe he will end up getting in. He'd probably have my vote. We're on to Jeff Kent right now. And if I look at Jeff Kent, I don't know how you can vote for him, quite frankly. He did have the MVP, but 55 career WAR. And a lot of these seasons I look at as good, not particularly great though. He had the MVP, but otherwise 6th place, 8th place, 9th place. And a lot of not much otherwise. Was never even on the MVP ballot until his 29th season. I think if he could have put up numbers from his 24 to 29 season, then we'd seriously have a case here. Unfortunately, that's just not really the case. So it's tough for me to say he is a Hall of Famer. I don't really think I can say that, quite frankly. He falls into that Hall of Very Good for me, and he's just wouldn't be getting my vote right now, as unfortunate as it is. He's certainly a guy, though, I could see getting in on the Veterans Committee at some point, but obviously that's going to be quite some ways away. So we got one more player to talk about, and then we're going to talk about some of our new players on the ballot. That is Andrew Jones. Kind of reminds me of Omar Vizquel, but a key difference. He was actually a good hitter. But another key difference is longevity. Omar played till he was 45. Andrew played till he was 35. And basically stopped putting up serious numbers after the age of 30. Some of the numbers he put up while he was healthy, including his 05 season, 51 RBIs, 128 ribbies. Absolutely incredible. Second in MVP voting that year. Along with the defense, man, if you're looking at just peak, this guy's probably it for you. This guy is probably getting your vote. 63 career WAR, despite such a normally these great players play till they're 40, around the age of 40. To only play till you're 35, and have your 31 to 35 season, which are typically great. Like Jeff Kent's best seasons was this range. And Andrew Jones was basically done for that point. It's kind of crazy to think about. If he had more longevity, I think he'd be like a shoo-in, quite frankly. But if you really only put up numbers from your 98 to 06 season, 06 season, it's tough to get that vote. I certainly think he should be a lot higher in vote percentage than Omar. I think he has a much better case than him. If you're a voter who votes by the peak and not the longevity, he's the guy. I'd probably give him a vote, quite frankly. But it'd be kind of tough to do so because of, how little the good years were really good. Lastly, we're just going to talk about 3 new guys: Tim Hudson, Mark Burley, Torrey Hunter. I'm just going to say very quickly, Hall of Very Good. They would always very good players, I'll say pretty good players for sure. Always were consistent, never dominant, I would say. That's all I gotta say. They were never really superstars, in my opinion. Tim Hudson, career 58 WAR. Let's just go through it really quick. No Cy Youngs, unfortunately. Obviously, no MVPs. A very good player. 4-time All-Star, 14 World Series, but that was with the Giants, not even the team he's really known for, which is the Oakland or the Braves. Although he did certainly have a good year in his age 38 season, which is kind of incredible. When he was an All-Star with a 3.5 ERA, getting that World Series, but he was never really dominant. Career 3.78 ERA, never an ERA below 3.39. It's certainly a no for me. Then we'll look at Mark Burley. I feel like it's going to be a lot of the same. Career 59 WAR. Lots of leading the league in hits because of how many innings he pitched. But let's look at this. Career ERA of 3.81. Pretty similar. He's very similar to Tim Hudson. lowest ERA was 3.12, consistently around that 3.8. Does have the World Series as well. Also a great defender, but not many people are going to be looking at pitchers' defense when they vote for pitchers, I feel like. So, he's so similar to Tim Hudson for me. And then we'll just look at Torrey Hunter and wrap it up. Career 51 WAR. Obviously, that's killer. I kind of hate Torrey Hunter because I love Torrey Hunter because he just missed Robert Ortiz of that Grand Slam in 2013. One of my best baseball moments ever for me as a fan. So thanks for not catching that, Torrey. But weirdly for him, only a 5-time All-Star, 9-time Glover, but man, the defense was incredible. The bat he didn't have really any seasons like Andrew Jones, which I think really pushes him far back. Never above 6 on the MVP running, and that was by far his best year. Career OPS of 793. Pretty good. Not a Hall of Famer. His OPS was never above 873. I can't vote for that. I'm sorry. I do think those 2 guys will stay on. However, I don't think any of them will end up getting on, quite frankly. Alright, so let's just recap quickly. Kluber threw a pen. We don't know anything about it yet, but it seems like many teams are interested. Red Sox showing some interest in Odorizzi. Trinan staying with the Dodgers for 2 years. Dodgers are interested in Hand along with the White Sox and Mets. Grossman is signed. They have many good outfielders stay available. And the Angels are interested in Contreras. I expect a move for Contreras could come sooner rather than later. I predicted within a year. Could be sooner to like a month or so, I believe, if teams are going to continue to show interest. So that's all for today. I hope everyone enjoyed. This is Adam signing off from the World Baseball Today podcast. One more note before we wrap up. We are available on YouTube. This podcast will be in video form on YouTube. So just search the World Baseball World Today podcast and you can type in the episode number and name and it should come up. You can feel free to subscribe, leave comments, questions, ask me to talk about some certain stuff. I will certainly talk about it. Any support would really help. So have a good one, everyone. Thank you for listening.